Hello and welcome to Catholic Answers Live. I am Cy Kellett, your host, and normally, usually, typically, on a Thursday, we're going to give you 2 hours of open forum, but we have moved those 2 hours of open forum to Friday this week. So tomorrow, Jimmy Akin will be here, and I believe Mark Brumley, and we will take any question at all on the Catholic faith. And that is because we are taking advantage of an opportunity. Dr. Christopher Bloom is here in Southern California, a great friend of Catholic Answers and a leader in the, I was going to say the reform, but in the kind of resurgence of Catholic education. He's professor of history and philosophy, as well as the academic dean at the Augustine Institute, the author of many things. And you see him in videos, you hear him on radio. And Dr. Bloom, thanks for being with us.
Cy, it's great to be here. Thanks.
I guess reform implies things that maybe I shouldn't have implied, but resurgence. There's certainly,
there you go.
There's certainly a new, a renewed interest in genuinely Catholic education.
Oh, I think so.
Well, as an educator, I'm going to tell you something. You probably do not know this. If you're shocked, take a minute. But a lot of people who go to Catholic school, have good Catholic parents trying to give them the faith, are making it to their later teens and 20s without ever having possessed the faith themselves.
That's right. That's right.
What's going on?
Well, here we are. It's 2019.
Yeah.
This is an America that has sort of lost its moral compass as a country. Long before you and I were born, right? And so the culture, I think we have to frankly admit, is a secular one, the prevailing culture, and that makes the task of raising Christian kids itself already a kind of missionary work.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be shaped by that culture.
Right.
And they need to be. They need to live in this world, and they need to interact with people who are outside of their own family or their own parish,
Well, Augustine Institute is certainly among the institutions that are popping up. It strikes one that perhaps at the bidding of the Holy Spirit, popping up everywhere, these to try to address this growing secularization, de-Christianization, whatever you might want to call it. And you have a wonderful new pair of books and these are directed at high school seniors.
That's correct.
Right? Mm-hmm. And they're called Why We Believe, Answers to Life's Questions. It's a 2-volume set, and it comes with a teacher's a guide and help, and it comes with video resources at the Augustine Institute.
Forum.org. That's
yes.
right.
So where did all of this come out of?
Well, this is the result of a wonderful collaboration with the Diocese of Rockville Center, which is the diocese on Long Island.
Was Fulton Sheen there once? Is that the one? Or
that could very well be.
Or maybe I'm confusing.
Yeah.
Okay.
My field's more European history, so I don't. America.
I know they're still fighting over Fulton Sheen, so we'll let them work that out.
There you go. That's right. That's right. So Bishop John Barris of Rockville Center and our president Tim Gray got to talking one day, and they realized that they had a common interest, a common project.
Okay.
Bishop Barris was new to his diocese at that point and has 10 high schools, and wanted to do something to reinvigorate them, just as along the lines you were saying.
Yeah.
Giving these seniors a chance to take possession of their faith before they go off to college. Really put in front of them the faith as something to grab and to run with and to live.
Right.
And so he was looking for an apologetics curriculum for his senior year. And meanwhile, our president, Tim Gray, wanted to take us, the Augustine Institute, into working on curricula. Which we are doing at the K-8 level in partnership with Ignatius Press. And so the two of them came up with this project. It was very generously funded by Rockville Center, and then we put it together over the course of the last 18 months.
And it's available to the general public now. It's available to schools that might want to use this. Mm-hmm. And the attractive thing about it is before we let them go out that door, they're going to hear the fullness of the faith. They're going to get a preparation in how to defend it so that we don't have that really a problem that we've had for a couple generations now of, well, actually, nobody ever really presented the faith to me. 12 years at Catholic school, but I didn't really get it.
Right. Well, this is of course always a difficulty, right? Our holy faith, in some ways, is very simple, right? The love of God is revealed to us in Christ Jesus, right? That's all you need to know, right? But then the creed has all these parts to it, And then there's all these theological explanations of the parts of the creed, and there's 7 sacraments, and there's 7 virtues, and this many deadly sins, and so forth.
Right.
And all of a sudden, you've got a file cabinet.
Yes.
And theology becomes, and however many books of the Bible is it? 73, I want to say, right?
73, 72, 220, 221, whatever.
Yeah, exactly, right? And so theology becomes a kind of a set of specializations.
Yeah.
And what we've tried to do here is to put the kerygma at the center, put the love of God made manifest in Christ right
Mhm.
at the center of these books, and then give the framing for that we thought would really help young people, kids, to love their faith.
Anybody who calls and gets through to talk with Dr. Bloom this hour will be sending you your own free copy of the Why Believe Answers to Life's Questions set for your high schooler, for your, maybe you've got one approaching senior year. Maybe, I have to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
I kind of want to, I feel like any adult could pick
Yes.
this up and benefit from it. There's
I think
lots
so.
of kids 12 years old who could pick it up and they're ready for it and they could go through it. And I know homeschool kids.
Yes.
See, so that's why I know some are
Yep.
well prepared.
That's true.
And so this is a wonderful, wonderful thing to have in the home or in your school or among your homeschooling group. Why Believe Answers to Life's Questions. I see the names on top with yours. I Tim Gray and Dr. Barber and so did you divide up the work? How did this?
We did. So we were on a lightning fast schedule here. So the initial work of framing the curriculum started with Tim Gray and Ted Sri and myself in an office, just kind of hammering it out. And we got it to about the 80% confidence level there. And then we started to bring in other colleagues and try to figure out who was available, what was available, and the result was this wonderful mix here. So 3 of the chapters in Volume 1 come from the 2 different books published by Michael Augros with Ignatius Press, Who Designed the Designer and The Immortal in You.
Right.
So these have been best-selling books with Ignatius Press.
Yeah.
Mike's a wonderful writer. He's a philosopher.
He's been on here with us. Yeah.
Oh, I'll
yeah.
bet.
We love having him on. Yeah.
He's one of the smartest men in North America.
Is he?
And oh yeah.
Do you know where I live?
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
I live right here in North America. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Well, you might make the team too,
Okay,
Si.
yeah, right. Okay, I could be the ball boy.
So
Okay.
Mike very graciously accepted a proposal that we cherry pick just the right nuggets from his books that we thought would advance the ball in the context
Right.
of this high school context here.
Right.
So that got us started. Dan McInerney gave us some great chapters, and then the rest was mostly our faculty pitching in.
The new set of books for high school seniors, or for those who are pretty much anybody who's willing to pick them up and go through them. Why Believe Answers to Life's Questions from Augustine Institute Press. These also come, like as you said, formed. I always forget if it's org, but it is.
It is
right?
.org.
Formed.org, which I hear wherever I go now. Talk to people around the country. People are really fired up about formed.org. They want to know
Good.
if I know about it, and I say, no, I never heard of it. What is that? But it's a tool for really fully getting the full message of the faith.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've even got Catholic Answers materials on there.
Right. 888-318-7884 is our number. 888-318-7884. Dr. Christopher Bloom is our guest. He is an educator and wants your child and his and mine and every child to know the fullness of God's love for them given to us in Jesus Christ and passed down through the generations by the Catholic Church. That is part of why Believe Answers to Life's Questions exists, but it's also why Dr. Bloom is here. If you have a question, maybe about your child, maybe about sharing the faith with young people, whether you're a teacher or a parent or any other kind of educator, 888-318-7884 is that number. 888-31-TRUTH if you like the spelled edition. And don't forget, the annual spring store-wide sale continues here. All of our Don Eden's got that great new book, Sundays Will Never Be the Same. Jimmy Akin, Trent Horn both have new books, but all the books, everything, all the DVDs, CDs, everything we've got at shop.catholic.com is 15% off. Just put in the promo code SPRING19 when you check out at shop.catholic.com.
I once had a gentleman come up to me and say he didn't think the principle of non-contradiction was true, that perhaps something could be and not be in the same respect at the same place and time. Now, skepticism doesn't get any more radical than this. The principle of non-contradiction is the principle upon which all human knowledge is based. So, how do we defend it? It's pretty simple. A skeptic can only speak against the principle if his words have the intended meaning and not the opposite. For example, if a skeptic says the principle is false, well, then he must intend the statement to mean what it expresses and not the opposite, namely, the principle is true. But this presupposes the principle and thus undermines his attempt to deny it. So a skeptic can't deny the principle of non-contradiction without ending in self-defeat. I'm Carlo Broussard with a ready reason for Catholic Answers, Catholic.com.
EWTN, Teaching the Truth.
I just wanted to thank the station for being there on the radio for all of us Catholics. We're all trying to learn something new every day about ourselves and about the world we live in and the people that we interact with. Thank you for taking my question. I appreciate your willingness to be on the radio these days.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
Catholic Answers Live is brought to you in part by CatholicSingles.com, the website for Catholics who want to meet others who share their faith and values for faith, fellowship, and love. You can learn more at CatholicSingles.com. Catholic Answers Live thanks CatholicSingles.com for their generous support.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. Open forum is tomorrow, this week. Friday open forum, both hours. Don't worry if you've got a question that you need answered. We'll have Jimmy Aiken here. We'll have, is it Mark Brumley? Was that right? Is it Brumley? Yeah, Mark Brumley will be here. Mark Brumley is the president of Ignatius Press. You probably have heard of him before.
I think so.
He's a very important person, and
he's on our board.
Oh, he's on your board?
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Well, he comes on our show.
Well,
So I'm not.
we're
It's not a
tied.
competition.
Yeah.
Chris, I don't want you to think this is a competition, but I do just want you to leave with a sense of how important we are. 888-318-7884 is the number here. Why Believe? Answers to Life's Questions, a collaboration between the Diocese of Rockville Center, New York, and the Augustine Institute in Denver, Colorado. And it's an extraordinary. Let me just ask you this: how important to you was it that it's physically beautiful? Because I'm looking at this, going,
yes.
"Wow, these are beautiful books."
Yes. No. Hats off to Bent Ibis and our whole design team. They worked very, very hard and on a tight timeline to put this out.
Yeah.
Yeah. We wanted to both have wonderful photography that would be warm and inviting and sort of locate these discussions in a world that the 18-year-old can recognize,
Right.
and have wonderful examples of Catholic art down through the ages.
Yeah, no stick figures. I noticed a total absence of stick figures.
This could be true.
My catechism books when I was a kid had stick figures in them, but I don't know if you got your catechism in the 60s and 70s, but there was some...
Yeah.
But okay, so they're physically beautiful books, but it's a 2-volume set with a teacher's guide that goes with it, and with supporting videos at formed.org.
Yes.
So, and the idea is we're not going to let you go out into the world, young Catholic, until we have communicated or done our very best to communicate the faith to you and prepare you to defend it.
That's right.
So what do I find inside? How's it structured?
Yeah, so the idea here is that Volume 1 is for the fall semester up to Christmas, and Volume 2 is in the spring semester. Volume 1 is addressing what we think are the questions that our young people are likely to have gnawing away at them on the side of belief. Do I believe this stuff?
Right.
Right? So philosophical questions about human life and what it's for, about how humans are different from animals, whether we have immortal souls, whether God exists, whether there is truth, what to do with the Darwinian account.
Oh,
Okay.
Man, hitting right where they're...
Right where they are.
Yeah.
Right where they are. And then we move into these wonderful chapters written by Michael Barber, looking very closely at the Gospels, thinking what Michael and the rest of us tried to do is put ourselves in the mind of young people who've heard about Jesus, heard the gospel stories, and these are the big questions that they've got.
Yeah.
You know, Should I believe the Bible? Does Jesus have anything to do with the Old Testament?
Yeah.
Right? Is he God? What does it mean that he died for us? Is what the church says about the Last Supper what Jesus really intended about the Last Supper? These kinds of things, right? So it's really careful taking them sort of line by line through the Gospels to get these questions answered for them. Then volume 2 is on living the faith. And again, what we tried to do is assume that a young person today might say, well, I'm happy enough to believe this stuff, but why should I live this way? Why should I live?
Yeah.
Why should I live the way the church tells me to live? Will that make me happy to live as a Christian? And so what we're trying to do in volume 2 is to lay out as honest and straightforward an account that is talking to them right where they are, to help them to be able to say, yes, this is true. This will make me happy because it's true.
Again, 888-318-7884. And I promise you get the books if you call and get on the air, so I can't just keep delaying taking calls. That's mean.
Got to give some books away.
Yeah, so let's start with Joanne in Dayton, Ohio, listening on 9:10 a.m. Joanne, your question or comment for Dr. Bloom.
Sure. My children are a little bit older than high school age. The oldest is 28 and the youngest is 23. And we raised them very Catholic. We went to the public schools because the Catholic schools didn't do a very good job. My youngest graduated from a Catholic college last year, 23. And the kids are all still Catholic, but my youngest, who is very, very bright, has a really good friend who's a philosophy major and going on for his graduate studies. And through that became, atheist, I guess. And he still hangs out with his friend, and he'll come home with questions. Tom, I don't think he's questioning my son, but I want to understand. It sounds like the stuff that's in the second part of your book there. The philosophy. Why did his friend lose his faith? Because I said, well, did he read Thomas Aquinas? Oh, yeah, he knows all that. He just rejected him. Like, oh, well. So,
all right.
what can I read? What can I say? What can I give my son?
Yes, well, I'm sorry to say this is a far more common situation than any of us would like to see. I don't think your son is any way alone, nor his friend. Our secular world is adopting a very confident posture and dismissing the approaches to reality that the ancient and medieval and Catholic philosophical tradition have always counseled us to take. And what we're doing in Why Believe is trying to transmit that rich tradition into today's language. So we're careful to always, as much as we can, treat the most important questions in human life in language that everybody understands without undue technicality, and taking, as it were, by the throat, the really crucial existential questions of human life. So in chapter 2 of volume 1, for instance, we're looking very carefully at the question whether my life, your life, anyone's life can be understood as a whole. Is a human life one whole story? And what does that mean? What's the significance of seeing that our lives take the form of story with either a happy ending or a tragic ending? Or again, in volume 2, chapter 2, we're taking a look at the claims made by relativism today, and seeing that the loud claims made by the relativists often hide an unwillingness to enter into genuine conversation. So I think that certainly it's my job to recommend these books, and I do recommend them. I think your son would enjoy them and find them consoling. I think a lot of what passes for philosophy today in the secular world is really just a posture or a stance, and there's not a lot of honest questioning there. So what we have to do as Catholics is be confident that the questions that are moving us really are the right questions to be asking.
Joanne, we'll send you the books if you stay on and give us your address, all right?
That fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. As you said, that is not at all a rare
No.
question from a parent these days.
No.
Let's go to Miriam in Sacramento, California, watching on YouTube Live. Miriam, thanks for joining us. Your question for Christopher Bloom.
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
Happy to.
I just have a couple little friends. Can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Okay. I have a couple friends that just got out of high school that I talked to, and I'm letting them. I guess I'm telling them my my journey a little bit. Not so much because I don't believe they're at a point where they understand most of what I've learned. I was practically atheist before, so I guess I'm trying to share this in a cautious way so I don't mess up or make things worse for them.
Miriam, just so I just want to clarify something. So these friends are coming out of high school. Are you about the same age?
No, I'm in my 30s.
I gotcha. Okay. So go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
But I see them. Okay, my question, I guess, is they say they believe in God and all that, and they think that every religion, it doesn't matter what, is the same because they think of God as just something everybody just makes up to feel good, and that it's not really real, and that he's not real. So I guess I'm trying to see what I can say to them to get them interested in at least looking at like all the academic work. I just found it so interesting, and that's where I started.
So how do you kind of draw them towards that other material, Dr. Bloom?
Yeah, well, that's again. This is all too common too, right? For people to be satisfied with a kind of vaporous notion of the divine, right. And I think that here philosophy can come to the aid of faith, right? Because philosophy can help us to clarify what we mean when we say we're talking about God, and what God must be. And when we come to terms with God as a first cause and final end of all that exists, as a necessary being, a spiritual being that is simple and perfect and all-powerful and so on, then and a mind, right, a personal God, which is, of course, necessary. If there are to be personal creatures, then they must be proceeding from a cause that is personal. Philosophy can get us that far, right? And that kind of buttresses our approach to what would Christianity be like. If God has to be like this, then Christianity has to be at least as worthy as that, right? So if God is an independent, powerful mind who's responsible for all things and is perfectly good, then, well, he's a lot more than my thoughts, right? Whatever my conceptions of him might be, I might want him to be tall or short or thin or wide or something. That of course doesn't matter. He's other and greater, and so my posture then is going to be one of attentiveness. Has he spoken to the human race? Right? And of course, we as Catholics profess that not only has he spoken to our fathers through the prophets, but he has come among us as a man. So I think if we have clarity about God, then the distinctive claims about Christianity can be seen in their right light.
How's that for you, Miriam?
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Very good. Now don't go, because unless we have your address already, because you get a copy of each volume of Why Believe. There are 2 volumes, Why Believe, Answers to Life's Questions from the Augustine Institute. Thank you, Miriam. Thanks very, very much for that call. Someone on Facebook, Cynthia on Facebook, says, to her, this sounds like a perfect set for confirmation prep. Now, the thing is, people do confirmation prep at different ages.
Completely different ages.
So
yeah, it's happening in Denver with, 8-year-olds or something.
Is that?
Yeah, no. This won't work for 8-year-olds.
8-year-olds is too late. But okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to get controversial on you. No, so it won't work for 8-year-olds. But it does strike me that Cynthia's point may be that even by middle school, we're seeing a sense of they've moved on from even having questions about the Christian faith because of the power of the seductions all around them.
That's really it. Yeah. So I think we really did strive to hit the advanced high school age.
Yeah.
I think a really sharp 15-year-old is going to be fine here. I
Yeah.
think a lot of 19 and 20-year-olds are going to find it right in their wheelhouse. And I think adults are, as you were suggesting, adults are going to pick it up and just really enjoy it for what it is.
Right.
But I wouldn't go much below 15 here. I think certainly what's in our mind is when we were writing it and the editorial team was that we need a full answer to secularism.
Yeah, a full answer that can get to that 18, 17-year-old mind in a compelling way. Well, you've done it. We just need to get it out there. Why Believe? Answers to Life's Questions. The man who brought it to you, Christopher Bloom, is here to answer your questions and to give away books. More after this.
This is Archbishop J. Michael Miller of Vancouver, Canada, and you're listening to Catholic Answers Live.
Jesus asked his disciples, "Who do you say that I am?" Turns out that today, as back then, this question has a lot of different answers. So many groups want to appropriate Jesus, tweaking his identity until he looks and sounds just like one of them. But then you no longer have the Lord, says apologist Trent Horn. You have an imposter. In his new groundbreaking book, Counterfeit Christ, Trent exposes 18 phony versions of Jesus that we encounter today, helping you to recognize the fakes when you see them, explain why they're phony, and make a case for the full truth and beauty of who Jesus is, the Christ, the Son of the living God. Order your copy of Counterfeit Christ today by calling 1-888-291-8000, visiting the shop at Catholic.com, or asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
How can a human woman be God's mother? Where in the Bible does it say that Mary was sinless and a perpetual virgin? What can I do to build and deepen my relationship with Mary as my spiritual mother in heaven? In 20 Answers Mary, you'll find biblical evidence for Marian doctrine and devotion, answers to common objections to Catholic teachings about Mary, and guidance on how to imitate Christ as you get to know the Blessed Mother like you've never known her before. 20 Answers Mary is part of the 20 Answers series from Catholic Answers, offering hard facts, powerful arguments, and clear explanations of the most important topics facing the Church and the world, all in a compact, easy-to-read package. Visit shop.catholic.com today and take a look at this exciting new series from Catholic Answers Press.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. Dr. Christopher Bloom, our guest. Dr. Bloom is the academic dean at the Augustine Institute and a professor of history and what? History and
philosophy.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes I feel like part of why we're losing young people, and now I'm going far afield, but just because of the word history, they don't know the history of the Catholic faith. Mm-hmm. They have a story of the Catholic faith as like, yeah, that was that backwards Dark Ages thing. Modern people overcame that. Right. All their education is around celebrating the Enlightenment and celebrating revolutions and that kind of thing. And
true.
So there's no there's no connection to what the Catholic faith really has been.
No, that's right. Now, we do stay away from those issues here, in part just because what we want to do is to address these young people in their daily lives, where they're living right now. And they're not looking back so much. The secular world presents itself as confident, forward-looking. It's got it all.
Yes, I see. So there's kind of a story there.
Yeah.
The modern world, the secular world, has a story.
It's got a story, and the past is irrelevant.
Well, that is so depressing when you say it that way, but that's exactly. Yeah. We're about the future.
Right. They're about the future, and what we're trying to do here is to say, or to show over the course of a year of reading and discussing.
Yeah.
Right. Because these are just instruments for teachers to make come alive.
Yeah.
Right. But for them to really sort of hit their heads against the great questions of human existence here. What really makes me happy? What is my life for? Right.
Is it that a kind of reflection on my own interior that makes this a unified response to a unified story, rather than, look, here's a list of things you got to know in order to be prepared.
That's exactly right. So this is framed by story. It's framed by who are you? What character are you playing, as it were, and how's your story going to end? Right? What kind of person do you want to become? That's sort of the leitmotif here. That's the question we keep coming back to. And what's going to help you become a reliable person, a wonderful friend whom people want to have around and want to share life with?
Yeah.
Well, the church is actually giving you all of the tools you need in the sacraments, in its moral teaching, in its creed, to help you to be just the kind of person you want to be.
Again, 888-318-7884, the number. The book set, it's a 2-book set roughly for seniors in high school. Why Believe? Answers to life's questions, and you get the full lineup. I said to you off the air, it looks like a murderer's row. I mean, you remember Murderer's Row?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So of Catholic scholars and educators and thinkers. And you get it all in this 2-book set. It also comes with it also includes a teacher's edition, teacher's guide, and then it's supported by these videos at formed.org. So a lot of great stuff there. And if you call and get through with Dr. Bloom this hour, we're going to give you the 2-book set. Let's go to Georgia in San Antonio, Texas, listening on Guadalupe Radio. Georgia, do we have you there with us?
I am certainly here, and I'm excited to be with you.
Oh, thank you. Well, your question for Dr. Bloom.
Oh, well, it sort of went on to the email that you had, because I am a grandmother, and I have a wonderful grandson who is going to be receiving confirmation next week in Denver, Colorado. So we'll be traveling there to support him, because I feel it's so important that grandparents and parents support their children in this their faith.
Yes.
And so my question had been, would this be a good set for him? Yesterday I spent the afternoon looking at the the Summa Theological, which our person at our church recommended, and I think it's a little bit too much.
You think?
And maybe this is...
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe just read this Theory of Relativity and then do that.
Yeah. So anyhow, so I'm thinking, okay, what about a good Bible? Is there a recommendation there for one thing? But also this material then I might get and then wait maybe a year or so for him. He's read things like C.S. Lewis, The Chronicles, and he's read The Lord of the Rings. He's a reader, so that I'm excited about that. He's read The Hobbit, things that are leading to spirituality, and he also is a storyteller himself. So I'm excited to be able to be there with him, and also to get your input as to how we continue to encourage our young people that have asked us to help them in their spiritual walk.
There you go.
That's quite a grandson. That's great. Well, this is in general, the teenage years are kind of tough, right? I think most Catholic parents experience at a certain point running out of books, whether that's at 14 or at 16 or something like this, right? Because the child has just read it all already, ready for War and Peace. So I think our Why Believe set would be wonderful for a precocious 15-year-old to be a little bit more comfortable, for a 17-year-old perhaps. But yeah, I think that that's a really good question. I don't have a stock answer to that. It really depends on the likes and dislikes of the child. I think in general for Catholics, for that sort of reading that isn't quite beach reading, but it isn't quite studying for the midterm either, right? That kind of intermediate there.
Right.
I think it's really good for us to have a steady diet of lives of the saints, even things written as far back as the 40s or 50s, a nice 300-page biography of Francis Xavier or Ignatius Loyola or Junipero Serra or something like this. If over the course of several years your grandson or any Catholic child were to read, a dozen or so good, solid lives of the saints, this is just going to furnish the mind with a true north.
Yeah.
Right. Sort of show what human life is supposed to be.
Georgia, you are blessed to have such a grandson, but he's blessed to have such a grandmother. I wonder if those two blessings are connected to one another.
Huh.
I have to tell you, I was a reader as a kid too, and I have thought about it as an old man now. Reading at about 12 years old, The Lord of the Rings, I didn't even know it was a Catholic book. I didn't know the author.
Right.
I feel like that somehow that experience in a fictional world prepared me as a Catholic as much as anything I ever read before or after that.
My experience is exactly the same.
Really?
I was an Episcopalian who wasn't practicing faith at all.
Yeah.
Tolkien sunk deep. And then later in life, I'm able to look back and say, oh, wow, the seeds were planted.
That's the way I feel about it. Yeah. Well, it's something. I know that many people have done work analyzing Tolkien as a Catholic writer, but there is also just something mysterious about a great work of fiction that who knows how it does its magic.
This is so true.
Let's go next to John in Kansas City. John, I hope did I mention to Georgia that she's getting the books? I hope that we got the books to her. Oh, we did. Okay. John in Kansas City, Missouri, you're going to get your 2-volume set of Why Believe? Answers to Life's Questions from Augustine Press. We're getting on the air here. But first, let's get your question for Christopher Bloom.
Yes, is there anything in the series that is instructional that directs the reader to how to have a living encounter with Jesus, or how to recognize what a living encounter is?
That's such a wonderful question. That's really good. I would say yes. Okay. Here's what I would say, John, is that this is a high school textbook rather than a work of spirituality, right?
Okay.
So that, of course, its object is slightly different than the kind of text that you might be in particular asking for. But what we've done in the teacher's manual is to offer the teacher recommendations for Lectio Divina, passages from sacred scripture, for each chapter of the 30 chapters of the book. And starting from the first chapter of Volume 1, we make it very clear to the reader that this just is the point here, for the individual to say, yes, Jesus is my Lord, and his word is what will be the light for my steps. So that frames Why Believe at the beginning and the end. The last chapter of Why Believe is specifically about discipleship, and one of the topics that's dealt with in there, John, is precisely this: daily spiritual reading, taking that moment of encountering Jesus through his own words in the Gospels, right, and letting him speak to us through that experience. There's several different treatments in Why Believe of prayer. Again, it's not a book of spirituality, but prayer is treated as an integral and necessary part of Christian life. And so I think that, yes, you're gonna find that here. But as I mentioned before, these are instruments in the hands of teachers, and so we're going to be relying on teachers to make this hammer hit the nail, so to speak.
John, I hope that question is helpful to you. I feel like we kind of framed this by starting with a conversation about the fact that young people are getting to their majority and not having a living faith. And
That's right.
So I'm guessing, John, that your question is rooted in the idea that you're not going to get that unless they have some encounter with Jesus.
Yeah, that, we're competing with, there's lots of knowledge out there, and so they have to learn so many things, and if this is just one more thing that competes for just knowledge without experiential encounter, although if the knowledge is true, our intellects were made for truth, like metal is to a magnet, truth is to the intellect. If this content is rock solid truth and grabs their intellect, that's a sign of a living encounter.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I think so, John. I think that's why you seemed very sympathetic to John's question. That gets right to the heart.
It absolutely does. Right. So again, a book isn't really a living thing, right? No matter how good the book is, and the human heart is only rarely susceptible of being touched by a book. When we are touched by a book, it tends to be something like in Augustine's Confessions, right, where somehow the author is reaching through the pages of that book and touching our souls in some way, right? Most of us just wouldn't pretend to be able to write a book like the Confessions, with that kind of power, right? So perforce, we're addressing the intellect first, but we're addressing it by way of eliciting those deep questions, which are truths that at once fire the intellect and the heart at the same time, right? So I do trust that as much as a book can, we're inviting to that encounter with Christ as Lord.
John, thank you. Thank you so much for that question. And everybody who calls this hour is getting their own 2-volume set of Why Believe? Answers to Life's Questions from the Augustine Institute with input from all of the bright lights over there at the Augustine Institute. 888-318-7884 is the number. We still have to keep gathering. We still have to keep praying. There's a book is not a solution,
right,
but it's a wonderful tool.
Yes, amen.
Speaking of wonderful tools, the Catholic Answers annual apologetics conference. You were the keynote speaker at one not too long ago.
I was a couple years ago. It was great fun.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful conference. Like-minded people coming together, great conversations all through the day. Catholic Answers Live right there on the stage.
That's right.
That's fun.
That is fun. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what I was looking for. I was fishing for a little bit of an endorsement from you.
Well, you got it.
Okay, fair enough. That comes the last weekend of September here in San Diego, which is usually, I think, if you use probabilistic math, that is consistently also the best weekend of the year. September 26th through 29th will be at the Hyatt Regency in La Jolla, which is in a beautiful city, among the most beautiful parts of that beautiful city. Tim Staples is going to be speaking, Jimmy Akin, Trent Horn, Carlo Broussard, and our theme will be the early church was the Catholic Church. What do you think about that? See, you wish you thought of that for a book, huh?
Boy, yeah, that's a good one.
Yep.
And you're going to have Bishop Caggiano here speaking.
We are. You say that like an Italian. Good
for
you, Bishop Caggiano.
Yes, he's a powerful speaker.
That's what I have heard, but I have not heard him speak. You've heard him speak.
I have had the honor and the pleasure. Mm-hmm.
And his friend, Father Paul Check, will also be there now.
Oh, excellent.
He's going to be. Rod Bennett's going to be there. Father David McConey. I don't know if you know Father McConey.
Oh, he's a bright light. Studies St. Augustine.
And then he was on with us the other day, and Monsignor Eugene Morris, who did what you're doing now. He came out and visited us one time. We had a great time with him.
Excellent.
Yep. So it's all going to be on the early church was the Catholic Church. That means, look, if someone says to you, I want to get back to what Jesus was sharing, something before religion. It was just a spirituality. If you look at the historical facts, and I'm going to ask you to back me up on this.
Sure.
The early church was a hierarchical church. The church Jesus founded had a hierarchy.
Yes.
It had 7 sacraments.
Yes.
It had a shared prayer life, liturgical life.
Yes.
It was not a non-liturgical religion. And you know what it didn't have?
Tell me.
It didn't have the New Testament. It took a while.
Oh, there you go.
It developed the New Testament.
Yes, that's certainly true.
So the early church was the Catholic Church. We'd love to have you come join us September 26th through 29th. CatholicAnswersConference.com is where you go out to find out all about it. CatholicAnswersConference.com. And I don't think I'm putting words in his mouth when I say Christopher Bloom says this is the greatest conference in the universe.
Heavens.
In the heavens. Oh, okay. CatholicAnswersConference.com.
Bringing you the truth. Catholic Answers Live.
Underwriting for Catholic Answers Live is provided by Real Estate for Life. Real Estate for Life connects home buyers and sellers to real estate agents while supporting pro-life organizations. On the web at realestateforlife.org.
The wisdom of Mother Angelica.
Now, when Jesus was on earth, he taught us a great lesson. He taught us that he came for the sinner, not the virtuous. He came for you because you are imperfect, because sin comes easy to you, and sometimes you don't have the willpower to say no.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
A lot of people think that street evangelization involves yelling out of a bullhorn telling people that they're going to hell. Not so with St. Paul's Street Evangelization. Our methods are non-confrontational and effective. We simply offer information on the Catholic faith along with rosaries, miraculous medals, and prayer. Pope Francis wrote about how beautiful it is to see street preachers joyfully bringing Jesus to every corner of the earth. Street evangelization is fun and fruitful. Join us today at streetevangelization.com.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. Hey, if you're tuning in for Open Forum, don't worry, we're not trying to cheat yet. We got Open Forum tomorrow. We just had a wonderful opportunity to get 2 hours in with Dr. Christopher Bloom, the academic dean at the Augustine Institute. If you are not familiar with the Augustine Institute, will you visit them at AugustineInstitute.com.
.org.
.org. I can't. Sorry. AugustineInstitute.org. There are wonderful things going on in the church in the United States. Just magnificent, whether it's a focus for university students or the new universities that are coming up, or the wonderful pro-life groups or the homeschooling groups and all that. Augustine Institute is one of those institutions that is helping all that growth of a new Catholic vitality. By basically teaching us, reminding us how to be Catholics, teaching us about the treasures of the Catholic faith. And we're delighted to have Dr. Bloom with us because we hope, I really do hope, and that Catholic Answers and Catholic Answers Live is a small part of that rejuvenation of the Catholic faith here in the United States. So we try to do our part in any way. In partnership with Rockville Center, the Diocese of Rockville Center in New York, a brand new set of books for first and second semester of senior year of high school to help high school students have that one more fully vital opportunity to make the faith their own before they venture out into the world, wherever they go. Am I saying that right?
That's absolutely it.
Why Believe? Answers to Life's Question is the book set. I can tell you, I've got it right here next to me. I've been looking through it. And if you're an adult, if you're 40, 50, 60, 70 years old and you think, I never did get that fully unified view of what it is to be Catholic. That's what this is, really. It's a unified view. Here's what we are. Mm-hmm. And why you should believe that.
That's it. Yeah. So Christopher Check, when he first took a look at these books, he said, "This isn't apologetics. This is pre-apologetics."
Oh.
And there's a certain truth to that, in as much as our defense of the faith has to proceed from our having internalized the faith first. Right. And so that's in effect what's going on here. Is yes, all of the right topics are here, right, including Darwinism, as you mentioned, relativism, and so on. But we're finding those topics, we're meeting those topics within this context of a much broader set of questions. Who am I? What is most important to me? What do I want the shape of my life to be? And so we're trying to anchor the apologetic task within our own search for happiness.
And so if you get through, we're going to send them to you. 888-318-7884 is the number. Up next is Carol, listening on Sacred Heart Radio in Cincinnati, Ohio, one of my favorite Ohio cities. It's definitely in my top 10 Ohio cities, Cincinnati. Carol, your question for Dr. Christopher Bloom.
Okay, my question is, being evangelical Catholic, if there's such a term, and
I think there is.
I know that I have challenged different things that I've heard, and I feel that so many young people and older people are being influenced by the left-wing liberal agenda today through colleges and even in the church at times with some of the priests. And so my question is that I get chastised sometimes when I stand up for truth and the faith regarding acts of homosexual activity, premarital sex, pornography, alcohol addiction, et cetera, et cetera.
Really?
And so people will say, well, you can't judge. And I say, I'm not judging a particular person, but I am judging the sin. And Jesus is about truth, and especially about the Trinity also, because I've even heard a priest say that Allah is the same God as our Trinitarian God, and I absolutely disagree with that, and I believe that's false teaching.
Well, Carol, I would if we're standing up for the truth and we're being chastised, we're probably we're in a long line there. Jesus promised us that. So just real quick, Carol, your question for Dr. Bloom.
How do you deal with these things? Because so many of the people, even in the church, they will not give sermons on these truths. They give nice, fluffy, feel-good sermons so that people will put money in the coffer and come back every week. But they will never hit on these hot topics about marriage.
Okay. All right.
Good.
What do we do?
Well, so Volume 2 of Why Believe is looking right into this space here. And it's framed very carefully. So the first chapter is a very slow, thoughtful reading of the parable of the prodigal son, asking the reader of the text to think about what sin is in our lives and how sin only hurts us, and why therefore Jesus' offer to forgive us our sins is so beautiful. And that fundamental framework having been set, we then look at relativism head on. And one of the things that we notice about relativism, as Carol was pointing out, is that in our world today, in fact, there's a lot of judging going on, right? Yeah. People are very quick to say, you are a racist, for instance, okay? Which is, if we look at the shape of that claim, right? This is a claim not about one action having been the wrong action, right? You did some racist thing, right? But it's actually a claim about the state of somebody's soul. This is the kind of person you are, right? Yeah. And so, in fact, we're quite confident in saying Christians who judge rightly about what kinds of things will make us happy and what kinds of things will not make us happy, we're only judging actions, and it's in fact the secular world that's judging souls, right? So we turn the tables on that right away before we move through, what is human nature? How do the emotions relate to reason? What is the place of sexuality in human life? What is the proper role of the family, and so on? And that's where those hot button issues are then dealt with in their proper context.
Carol, don't go anywhere. We want to send you the books. So until somebody writes down your address, don't go. We'll send Why Believe? Answers to Life's Questions from the Augustine Institute. Christopher Bloom is academic dean there, and they have put this together in cooperation or in collaboration with the Diocese of Rockville Center in New York. It's a book that'll work for homeschoolers. It's a book that'll work for people who are already out of school. It'll work for classroom setting. It's all there, and it comes with video support. Why Believe? Answers to Life's Questions. Let's go to Phil in Louisiana, listening on the Catholic Answers app. Phil, thanks for downloading the app onto your phone. Your question for Dr. Bloom.
Oh, yeah, great. Thanks for taking my call, guys. By the way, you get Carlo to come down to Louisiana. It's crawfish season right now. We could probably show you how to do it if you want to do it.
Well, I can tell you, Carlo knows it's crawfish season, but I'll come down. Yeah, a little crawfish and rice would be fine with me. You were really right up against it. Sorry, Phil. Real quick, your question.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So I had a friend who I finally got to go to a retreat, and he is a Protestant, and to a Catholic retreat, a men's retreat, and he heard the Hail Holy Queen, and he said, that's it, I'm done. Our life, our sweetness, and our hope is part of our prayer. Right. So what do I tell this guy? He believes our life, our sweetness, our hope is for Jesus.
Right. So
help me out.
Right. It's very. He's not the first one to notice that that's a controversial line. Hail, Holy Queen, Mother of Mercy, our life, our sweetness, and our hope. There's a bit of a grammar issue there. What exactly is that referring to? But do you want to address it, or?
I'll let you do that one.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So, there's two ways that we approach it. One is she's the Mother of Mercy, the mother of our life, our sweetness, and our hope, in which case that would refer to Jesus. I think that's the less convincing answer. But the more convincing answer in general is when we address Mary in prayer, we are like the psalmist. Often a kind of very high poetic language is used. This is not a theological kind of treatise. This is an ecstatic prayer to our mother, a prayer full of joy and full of acclamation for her. So she is she's not Jesus, she's not God. This is not worshiping her, but this is using love language. Essentially, this is like when you talk to your sweetheart, or someone who's very precious to you. And so if you want to try to say, well, it's got a theological content that bothers me, that's fine. There's no problem with that. But it's also the case that we do love her, and we use love language when we talk to her. So that's all I got for you, Phil. Christopher Bloom is our guest, and he will return next hour, and we're going to open the phones. And you can continue to call with questions on Why Believe, but we'll also open up to a more general question about the state of Catholic education and what it is we're trying to do when we educate as Catholics, and maybe how we can do that better. Fair enough?
Sure.
Christopher Bloom, our guest. This is Catholic Answers Live. 888-31-TRUTH is our number. If you're on the line, go ahead and stay on the line. If you haven't dialed yet, dial now. We'll be right back.
How do we know Jesus founded a visible, organized church? Is today's Catholic Church the same as the Church of the Apostles and the early Christians? What can I say to someone who claims the medieval church became corrupted by pagan ideas and practices? In 20 Answers, The Church, you'll find smart, solid answers to these questions and many more, helping you to understand how the church Jesus founded is able to carry on through history his mission of teaching and sanctifying his followers. 20 Answers, The Church is part of the 20 Answers series from Catholic Answers, offering hard facts, powerful arguments, and clear explanations of the most important topics facing the church and the world, all in a compact, easy-to-read package. Visit shop.catholic.com today and take a look at this exciting new series from Catholic Answers Press.
Is the church wrong on contraception? In a culture that worships the pursuit of sexual pleasure, the Catholic Church's teaching on contraception can seem archaic and unintelligible. Its critics say it's outdated, theologically unfounded, and even harmful. And even faithful Catholics can have difficulty explaining this moral teaching. Catholic Answers is out to change all of that. That's why we've just released Trent Horn's dynamic new DVD, The Case Against Contraception. Using scripture, papal and magisterial teachings, natural law, and new insights provided by social science and medicine, Trent puts forward a compelling case for Catholic teachings with his trademark charity and persuasive graciousness. Be prepared to give a defense. Order your copy of The Case Against Contraception today by calling 1-888-291-8000, logging on to the shop at Catholic.com, or asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
Hey everyone, Carlo Broussard here. Are you looking for an on-fire Catholic speaker to come and speak at your conference or parish event? If so, you're in luck. We've got a host of Catholic Answers speakers, including myself, just waiting to get on a plane and come see you. Just go to CatholicAnswersSpeakers.com to get all the information you need to make your event the talk of the town. That's CatholicAnswersSpeakers.com. We look forward to seeing you.
Catholic Answers is a media ministry that serves Christ by explaining and defending the Catholic faith. We help Catholics grow in their faith, we bring former Catholics home, and we lead non-Catholics into the fullness of the truth. Our goal is to be the most trusted and accessible source for sharing, explaining, and defending the Catholic faith through as many media as possible, from personal contact to the most innovative means of mass communication. Have questions? We've got answers. Catholic Answers. Visit us today at Catholic.com or call us with your questions at 619-387-7200.
If only evangelization was easy. But the truth of the matter is that most of the time, it's not. Talking about the Catholic faith is enough of a challenge even before dealing with the roadblocks that keep people from listening with an open mind. Apologist Carlo Broussard recognized that as he wrote Prepare the Way, a guide to step-by-step strategies that readers can use to break down those barriers to the very existence of God and religious truth, barriers to basic Christian beliefs, and barriers to the distinctive teachings and claims of the Catholic Church. Don't let obstacles get in your way. Learn how to overcome them. Order your copy of Prepare the Way today by calling 1-888-291-8000, logging on to the shop at Catholic.com, or asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
Please stand by. Catholic Answers Live. Second hour will begin shortly. Thank you.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. I am Cy Kellett, your host, and tomorrow we're going to give you 2 hours of open forum. That's unusual for a Friday. 2 hours of open forum. Jimmy Akin will be here. Mark Brumley, president of Ignatius Press, one of the most important people in the world, will be here. And because, well, I don't want to undersell Mark Brumley. So in part why we're bringing those 2 hours of open forum tomorrow is today we have the opportunity to spend 2 hours with Christopher Bloom, the academic dean of the Augustine Institute, one of those just precious, well, precious is a bad word probably, just really important Catholic institutions that are springing up about the country. I say springing up like it's somehow passively it happened, but you know why it's happening is because Catholics really want the fullness of the Catholic faith, and they're trying to figure out how can we share it in the modern world.
That's right.
So thanks for being with us, Dr. Bloom, again.
Great to be here, Cy.
We've been speaking about your brand new set of apologetics for high school seniors, Why Believe? Answers to Life's Questions. And you can, you know what, should we still continue to give the book away? Or
Sure.
That's okay with you?
It is okay with
All right,
us.
I don't want to bankrupt the Augustine Institute.
We may send you a bill.
We're not giving any books away then. No, we'll continue to give the book away to those who get through. And if you have questions left over from last hour about the book, those are welcome. But I do want to engage you a little bit because you are a Catholic educator, and because this is what the Institute is so dedicated to, is educating. I have said on the air, and I stand by it, but sometimes I regret it because I know it hurts some people who maybe their experience where they are is different. But we had a major bishop problem in the world, and we were kind of silent about it, and we've paid a tremendous price for that. Other bishops were silent about it, priests were silent. It was a little bit of a conspiracy of silence. And sometimes that comes from you just don't know what to do. You don't know what to say. But we knew that. And I say, well, let's not make that mistake again. And I believe we have, in many places throughout the country, throughout the world, an elementary school principal problem in Catholic schools. We have many elementary school principals who don't believe and hold what the Catholic Church believes and hold. And as the leaders of these educational communities, that means whatever happens under them is going to be problematic. So I say all of that, not to try to drag you into my controversial and frankly annoying to many people views, but to say what's supposed to be happening in these Catholic schools.
Right. Yeah. You know, if we could put a little context around this, Cy, that might help.
Okay.
You know, I think our Catholic schools is probably well known to many. Were essentially run by religious orders 75 years ago.
Right.
They're now mainly run by laymen and women. So there's been a big shift there. I think, again, another point of context that would be familiar to listeners to Catholic Answers Live is that we've been in a crisis of catechesis for the better part of that same period of time.
Okay.
75 years. You know? So if it happens to be the case that here or there's an elementary school principal who doesn't seem to agree with the whole of the faith, it's probably because he or she never really was taught the whole of the faith. Right. So you know, we really are facing a much broader crisis of faith and of catechesis than I think we really came to terms with, right? So people knew when John Paul II was Pope, right, and he brought out Catechesi Tradendae, and then he, of course, gave us the great gift of the Catechism itself. You know, everyone said, well, there was a crisis in catechesis. Well, we've got it now. I don't think we really realized how broad and deep this crisis was, and
Right.
how much tremendous labor it takes to actually hand on the faith successfully to an entire generation.
Mhm.
It takes all we've got.
Yeah, and it takes all we've got. And if we come, and I might push a little bit farther than you did on that elementary school principal, that it because the problem is so broad. It's not just that they didn't get presented the fullness of the Catholic faith, but they got presented in many cases what Trent Horn might call a counterfeit Catholic faith.
Sure. And then again, another aspect, a facet of this problem, Si, is that you can have Catholic schools in certain parts of the country where the principals and the faculty are exquisitely Orthodox and pious.
Yeah.
And the parents, by and large, aren't interested. They're
Nah.
not
Right.
not choosing Catholic schools for orthodoxy and piety.
Right.
And so then there's different kinds of conflicts.
888-318-7884 is our number. Dr. Christopher Bloom is our guest. And if you get through this hour, we're going to give you the 2-volume set, Why Believe? Answers to Life's Questions. 888-318-7884. A lot of people, you can see every line full right now. I think we should empty some of those lines.
Excellent.
Ready to take some calls?
You bet.
All right. Let's go to Patricia right here in San Diego, watching on YouTube. Patricia, glad to have you here with us. Your question for Dr. Bloom.
Hi, Si. Hi, Christopher.
Hi, Patricia.
Hello.
Great show.
Oh, thank you.
I was wondering, would your books be appropriate for someone going into a community college?
Absolutely. Yes. They'd be right there. Mm-hmm.
You got somebody in mind?
And my nephew.
Oh, okay. Well, you're getting a free set. So
Yeah. Try it out.
And you had a follow-up, Patricia?
No.
Oh,
That's
okay.
all I wanted.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I know you waited patiently for a long time, so I appreciate it, Patricia. But don't go anywhere because we want to send these books to you and bill it to Augustine Institute. You were going to say?
Yes. Well, that's just a wonderful question here because it comes forth from this dilemma that we're all facing, right? That moment when a young person is ready for the first time to engage the questions of the faith. That moment might come at 15. That moment might come at 35.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And
Indeed.
and certainly this is not a universal text here. You know, a 35-year-old might pick it up and look at the pictures and say, "Well, the photographs are of people who are half my age. This must not be addressed to me."
Yeah.
But that's not the experience a 35-year-old will have of the words of the text itself. Right. So reading through this, it will address any age, right on.
Well, lots of people are, and they often will say to us here at Catholic Answers with a kind of anxiety in their voice of, "Look, I'm 40, and I still never have gotten a complete formation in my faith. What can you
Exactly.
give me? What will help me?" You
Yes.
know? And we have books for them. But this, I can imagine a person like that. This would be a wonderful thing to have in your hands.
I do think so. Mm-hmm.
Why Believe? Answers to Life's Questions. But it would also, I mean, the purpose of it, and a classroom full of high school seniors,
yes,
before they head out that door and start their work life or their next level of their school life, here's the Catholic faith.
That's right.
You're ultimately you got to decide, but here it is.
That's what we're trying to do.
Patricia, thanks very much for that call. Let's go to Tom in San Antonio, Texas, listening on Guadalupe Radio. Tom, you are on with Dr. Christopher Bloom. Your question, please.
Yes. Thank you, Si. Thank you, Christopher. I'm the father of a 15-year-old son who has a faith that is probably rival of most adults I know.
Wonderful.
We went through a divorce when he was 6 together, and he is Catholic like I am. His mother is not, and I basically taught him by living my faith because I had to rely on it going through the divorce, which we went through together. Now, I mean, at the time, we drive down the road, I'd see an ambulance, I'd say a prayer for whoever they're going to help. Very next time, he did it, and he is still that way. So he's 15, he's a freshman in high school, and I'm worried about I hear so many bad things about what happened when kids go to college. I just want to try and build his foundation as strong as I can, and hopefully it stays. Is your material something that would be of helpful to him?
It certainly would. I wouldn't rush him into it. It'll keep for a couple of years. It depends on what his interests are. If he's ready for it and enjoys it, let him move forward through it. But as far as that broader, longer campaign from 15 to 18 of keeping the faith and then beyond, I think, as I mentioned before, Saints' Lives, I think daily reading of the Gospels, 5 minutes a day of the Gospels, over time, that has a way of really changing hearts and minds, so that's important. And of course, saying the Rosary, getting to daily Mass, these are the anchors, but on the intellectual side, knowing the words of Jesus, they have such, limitless intelligibility.
Tom, thank you very, very much for the call. Dr. Christopher Bloom is our guest this hour. We're talking about Catholic education, and our occasion for this conversation is the publication of Why Believe? Answers to Life's Questions from Augustine Institute. Right now, we've got a free ebook we'd like to give you from Catholic Answers. Mary, this is her month. May is Mary's month. Were you aware of that?
I've heard that before.
Okay, good. That's a Catholic test for you. Queen of Heaven, Ever Virgin, Full of Grace is the book. You just go to the shop.catholic.com page. That's our shop, shop.catholic.com. You click on the banner that says Queen of Heaven, and you're going to get yourself a free download of this ebook, Queen of Heaven, Ever Virgin, Full of Grace.
Hi, this is Bishop James Wall from the Diocese of Gallup, New Mexico. Keep it right here on Catholic Answers Live.
Catholic Answers Live is proudly supported by CatholicChemistry.com, a new dating site for Catholics who want to do dating right and believe relationships start with Catholic chemistry. Catholic Answers Live thanks CatholicChemistry.com for their generous support on the web at CatholicChemistry.com.
Homeschool Connections, an online provider of courses for your Catholic homeschool, is a sponsor of Catholic Answers Live. Homeschool Connections website is homeschoolconnections.com.
The wisdom of Mother Angelica.
And we need to pray for all our world leaders and all those who are in such danger. See, in a day and age where people are getting further away from God, you get further away from goodness. Only God is good. You remember what our Lord said one day? Why do you call me good, he said. Only God is good. Only God.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. Catholic education, very, very hot topic. Something we have, man, you were saying 75 years of we've had a catechesis problem of really not communicating the faith to people. But it just feels like we've been debating about Catholic education and what's it for all of my life. Certainly all of my life. And I was one of those kids, as a Navy brat, I was in a different Catholic school here or there. And in the 60s and 70s, it could be really different from one place to another, from very traditional to really wild and innovative. And it was a little bit bewildering as a child. So there's no wonder that people are confused. Well, what is the heart of it? This series from the Augustine Institute, a set of 2 books directed towards high school seniors, Why Believe? Answers to Life's Questions, is available now, and we're giving a set to anybody who gets through and talks with Dr. Christopher Bloom this hour. Let's go to Chris in Dallas, Texas, listening on Sirius XM satellite radio. That's channel 130, EWTN. Chris, your question for Dr. Bloom.
Believe topic, and for years have sought to engage people that didn't believe, didn't want to believe. One of your first callers talked about some otherwise very smart young people who adopt atheism, and they just kind of don't want to listen. And my question is, would you find it helpful to do this? Because I do. That is, when someone really doesn't want to listen, they're often anti-establishment and anti-church, and they want alternative views of morality, more modern views. So I often take them through history where the church was the underdog. The church was the one getting beat up. The church was the one being abused, and a lot of anti-Catholic history. And a lot of those people seem to open up a little bit more when they see the church not as the big authoritarian, perfect lecturer of good and bad, but rather someone who has endured a lot of hardship through history, and they seem to be a little bit more compassionate to open and listen up about why we should follow Catholic.
So it's kind of a strategic question about presenting the Catholic faith as the underdog of history.
Well, sure, yeah, but this also takes us right back to Jesus and the apostles and the Acts of the Apostles, St. Stephen and St. Paul and so on, right? I mean, when God becomes man and brings the fullness of truth into the world, what's he met with? He's met with derision, scorn, indifference, and then outright hostility. And nevertheless, that truth breaks through, right? He has the 12, he has the 72, then there's the broader crowds who ebb and flow in their numbers and so on. But he's able to be heard. And then after the passion, death, and resurrection of our Lord and the sending of the Holy Spirit, these witnesses are emboldened to lay down their lives and their reputations for what they have seen and what they know to be true by faith. So that's certainly in between the covers of Why Believe, right? We are not addressing the whole scope of church history here. We have examples of holy people from the 20th century, but if we're looking carefully at anything, it's at that initial response to Jesus as truth that we find from the apostles, and that's still bedrock for us today.
It doesn't change. No, like that the classic question that the Jesus question that's often repeated: who do you say that I am? Everybody's got to answer it.
Everybody's got to answer it.
You got to,
yeah.
Right? And it's
and pay the cost of answering it.
Mm-hmm. Chris, thank you very, very much for that suggestion and for that idea on presenting the faith. It is true the Catholic Church is often presented as like the grumpy old man of the world.
Right. Oh, yeah.
But what can we do? I mean, if it's not that, it's going to be something else. People who want to dismiss the church are going to find a way to create an image of her that's mean.
Right, or increasingly irrelevant, right? No, we'd rather have Barabbas.
Yeah, so he's much more relevant.
Yes.
He's much more with the times. Tony in Dayton, Ohio, you're up next. Tony's listening on Channel 130 EWTN on Sirius Satellite Radio as well. Tony, your question for Dr. Bloom.
Hello. So I currently go to a Catholic school.
Okay.
And it's a high school. And I can definitely tell what you mean by that 75-year gap of catechesis. But a big part of that, the way that we can bridge that gap, is through good faith examples like priests and nuns and brothers and sisters and all that used to be at Catholic schools but now aren't. So my Catholic school currently does not have a priest, and I just started trying to get a priest to be a good example, as I've found, like, with vocations, having a priest at a Catholic high school infinitely increases vocations. So I was wondering what your advice was in my efforts to get a priest at my high school.
Wow, what a great effort! That's a wonderful inspiration that you've received. Something to bear in mind is how busy priests can be marrying and burying and baptizing, right? So it could be, depending on where you are and exactly what's around you, that some of the priests are already working flat out. They may be working 80 hours a week, and they may find spending a significant amount of time at the high school a bridge too far. Nevertheless, there's probably some space there, right? So, I think you would just want to work respectfully with teachers who are close to you, or perhaps the principal if you happen to have a good relationship with him or her. And then plant that seed and see what can be possible. That's a tough hill to climb. Of course, there are dioceses that have lots of priests, and the priests are in the schools, and that's the way it ought to be. But
right,
that can be hard.
Tough one, Tony. But God bless you.
Thank you.
Yeah, God bless you in your efforts. That's what I mean about, like, you feel the Holy Spirit moving.
Absolutely.
I do. Here and there, you just spontaneously these wonderful things happen. the power of the Holy Spirit's behind a lot of it. Chris in Michigan, listening on 990 AM Ave Maria Radio. Ave Maria Radio, that's where Al Cresta is. Do you know Al Cresta?
I've had the pleasure of speaking with him.
He is he's the apex. He's what we're all trying to be.
Yeah, there you have it.
In Catholic media. Chris, your question for, Chris, your question for Chris.
Yes, hello. I'm a father of a 28-year-old who's still seeking. We put him through Catholic high school, Catholic grade school, and I think after he finished a course in high school on comparative religions, he kind of came to the conclusion, I'm thinking, that Catholic religion isn't any better than any other religion, because that seems to be his belief now. So I was wondering if this book set might be helpful to him, because we still talk about, he's still open to talking to me about spiritual matters, and I'm always nudging him. I'm not, hitting him over the head with the catechism or anything, but I'm always nudging him toward the faith. I'm praying every day to St. Monica, St. Augustine for him, to bring him back into the sacramental life of the church. But I'm just wondering if this book set might be helpful to him.
I think it might. I'd like to think so. Cy and I were laughing about the friendly tug of war between myself and Chris Check about whether this is a book of apologetics or pre-apologetics. And this is, an argument among really nerdy people. But it is. There's a way in which it is a kind of pre-apologetics in this sense, right? That we're trying to show what it over the course of these 30 chapters, what it's like to look out at the world through Catholic eyes. And I think for your son and for other people who are that way, they may not have ever approached the Catholic faith that way. The Catholic faith may have always seemed like a bunch of disconnected matters. This on Sunday, this particular doctrine, this miracle or relic or saint or something like this, And what we're trying to do is to anchor the truths of the faith and the goodness of the faith and the goodness of the sacramental life. We're trying to anchor that in our one human nature that we all share, in our common experience of having to choose our path in life and choose to become good and choose to be happy. And I think the experience of someone like your son might be to say, wow, I never approached the Catholic faith this way. So it could be new.
Okay, Chris?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Man, the thing about this is a tough time to parent, man. This is a tough time to parent.
It's missionary work. It is.
I really appreciate you saying that it's missionary work, because I had not thought of it in those terms, but that's exactly what it is. You're a missionary to a person who is their formation is outside of the Christian world now. I mean,
much of it.
We have time. Let's go to Kristen in Houston, Texas, listening on Guadalupe Radio. Kristen, thanks for calling. Your question for Dr. Christopher Bloom.
Hi. I'm a high school teacher at a public high school in Houston, and I specifically teach science. But there's a Catholic parish right by the school and right by my house. And I occasionally hear the students like, oh, my parents are Catholic, but I don't really believe it anymore. Like, we were talking about this XYZ in the youth group, and they were kind of dancing around explaining, especially homosexual marriage and gay relationships. They were like, I don't really agree with it. And I was wondering, given my position as a teacher in a public school that teaches science, how can I possibly approach the subject to my students in a way that's appropriate both for my position and as a good Catholic?
Wow. Okay. Well, that's a $64,000 question there.
Right.
Okay. However, one were to attempt to answer a question like this, one would only be doing you and your students and these Catholic kids a disservice if the answer were to take the form of a course of action that would result in your getting fired. Okay, so that's not the goal here, and it shouldn't be the goal. we are really sailing against pretty stiff headwinds on this one, right? There's a litmus test out there in our culture on acceptance of sexual acts that are against nature, and those who speak against them not only are ostracized, but even those who are silent in the face of claims about the goodness of these lifestyles can be ostracized, right? So you need to exercise prudence here, because you as a teacher, any of us as Catholics, in terms of our witness, we're here for the long game, right? We recognize that God is patient with us. The world keeps spinning. The sun keeps rising on the good and on the ill. And we are not going to lose faith as we wait upon Providence to clear away the vapors that are clouding these issues here, right? So we have to be very patient. I think as a public school teacher, there's probably very little you can say directly about this issue and not lose your job. I think what you can do is to manifest in various ways your love for the Catholic faith in various low-key ways, and that's a great witness already.
You know what? If you'll hang on, there's a couple other things we might, resources we might point you to. But what a great question! But just if you can, Kristen, and I can come back to you when we come back on the other side. We're talking with Christopher Bloom, Academic Dean of the Augustine Institute, and we're talking about Why Believe? Answers to Life's Questions.
We're here for you. Give us a call today on Catholic Answers Live.
In his new audio presentation, The Very First Fathers, apologist Jimmy Akin takes you on a tour of the earliest Christian writings outside the New Testament. From the most famous figures and most notable works to those lesser known but no less important, this pivotal time in the development of the early church is revealed in fascinating detail. Jimmy shows how, even in the first century after the resurrection, it was necessary to defend and explain truths that are still under attack today, such as the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist and the perpetual virginity of Mary. The Very First Fathers is a compelling look at the dawn of the Christian age and edifying listening for anyone who wants to understand and defend the full truth of Catholicism. Order your copy of The Very First Fathers today by calling 1-888-291-8000, logging on to the shop at Catholic.com, or asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
Hello, this is Bishop Jeffrey Monforton, Bishop of the Diocese of Steubenville. Make sure you keep it on Catholic Answers Live. God bless you.
Love and beauty. As a little girl, Dawn Eden Goldstein knew that she wanted those things, that in them somehow she would find God. Over the years as a rock journalist, she moved among some of popular music's best-known artists, straining to capture that transcendent love and beauty in every note and lyric. In Sunday Will Never Be the Same, Dawn recounts her spiritual journey in beautifully wrought detail, mixing powerful accounts of trauma, healing, and epiphany with funny anecdotes from inside the music scene. It is the rare conversion story that delights as it inspires, amuses as it edifies, and ultimately lays before the reader a lived testimony to the transforming grace of Christ. Order your copy of Sunday Will Never Be the Same by calling 1-888-291-8000, visiting the shop at Catholic.com, or asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. I am Cy Kellett, your host, and we were talking with Kristen, a little bit of science teacher. I wanted to just get a couple clarifications from you. You said make sure that well, first of all, it's not going to do anybody any good if she gets fired.
Exactly.
That's a really good point. I mean, there's a practical point here. What good does that do?
Right.
But maybe share her Catholic faith in mild ways, maybe by wearing a crucifix.
Could be that. Could be mentioning that it's Easter, or mentioning that it's Christmas. Not preaching directly, but just sharing what's meaningful to herself.
Right. And if she's a science teacher and is wearing a cross or a crucifix, for example, that is a little bit of a dissonance that the student needs, actually. It's good for the student to see that.
That's right.
I was going to suggest, Kristen, that you also go to Stacy Trasankos' website. Stacy Trasankos wrote the book Particles of Faith. She's a scientist herself and teaches science. in a Catholic setting, not in a public school setting. But I just thought you might like to be associated with her. You can send her an email, be in touch with her. She's a great teacher and may provide more resources with you. There's an organization being formed, and I believe it's Dr. Barr, a physicist, Stephen Barr.
Delaware.
Oh, you know him. And it's a society of Catholic scientists, I think is what it's called. But it's in that neighborhood. And that's another one that might be a resource to people. I myself am very impressed with Stephen Barr and his work and his writing on science. So anyways, Kristen, I think we've lost you, but if you're listening, you can make those contacts. I certainly would reach out to Dr. Stacy Trasankos. Dr. Christopher Bloom is our guest. We're talking about Catholic education this hour, and if you have any question at all about Catholic education, you'd be welcome to call. But the particular occasion of our conversation is the publishing of Why Believe? Answers to Life's Question from the Augustine Press, where Dr. Bloom is the academic dean and a professor. And if you have questions in that regard, you're welcome to call as well, 888-318-7884. And we do want to give a set of these two books to anybody who gets through on the line today. Let's go to Sean in Atlanta, Georgia, listening on The Quest radio for Atlanta. Sean, your question for Dr. Bloom.
Yeah, I want to know, is there any initiative to standardize confirmation classes? I just taught the class this past year, and the topics were great, books on the Bible, the sacraments, the saints. But as soon as I asked them a question on defending the faith, the hot topics like abortion or homosexuality, the first thing they say, yeah, abortion's wrong. But when I mentioned homosexuality, oh, that's cool. You can do what you want. It's their business. They can't defend it. And I'm afraid as soon as they get to college, they're going to just fold in to the crowd.
Sean, thank you for that, Dr. Bloom.
Well, Cy, as we were saying at the break here to one another, the Courage Apostolate website is a wonderful resource.
Oh, thank you, for mentioning that.
On the topic of same-sex attraction, and so that's couragerc.org, if I'm not mistaken.
I'll look it up.
And especially the video presentation, "The Desire of the Everlasting Hills," which is a 1-hour documentary featuring 3 people who are giving testimony about their lives and how living chaste lives has meant such a great difference to them in terms of their happiness and wholeness and their love of God.
That you were right. CourageRC.org is the address, Sean. Thank you. It does strike me, and both Kristen from before and Sean now, among young people, I did not see it coming that the gay marriage thing was going to fix in the mind of young people the way that it has. That it's not like, oh, that's a side issue to my faith and everything. They are using your stance, you, Dr. Bloom, or me, or whoever, your stance on gay marriage as a barometer of your authenticity and reliability.
Right.
If you don't say, yo, yeah, sure, then you are an inauthentic and unreliable.
Or a bigot.
Yeah.
Right. This is what is said.
So this makes it very difficult on Catholic schools, Catholic school teachers, because the standard has now been set, and frankly, I can't ever meet the standard. So I'm locked out.
Right. And so we had to confront this in putting together Volume 2 of Why Believe, because as I was saying, we're trying to present what the world looks like from Catholic eyes. And so Chapter 5 is on sexuality, and Chapter 6 is on the family. It's just in Volume 2. And the approach that we took is to anchor sexuality in procreation, which is really the only way of understanding why we have these parts and what they're for, and then anchoring procreation within the context of raising children, because of course at 1 day old and with the belly button still red, they're not ready to live on their own yet, right? So
I tried. But they stuck around.
They do.
And I get an apartment. Nothing. I got nothing out of them.
And the bills come in. But so parenting and the wonderful adventure of multi-generational living, which is what family is supposed to be. So I think if we look at human life in the proper context of why we have these parts and what these parts do when they're functioning in a healthy way, then from that perspective, we're able to see why homosexual acts are not going to make us happy, and why the homosexual marriages with children in that context aren't what children deserve.
Sean, is all that helped you?
It is, and I do have the DVD set. It's called "Invited to Courageous Love."
Good.
From Courage.
Wonderful.
But I just wish I could have some influence on changing or adding. So I just do things aside.
Oh, we lost you for a quick second here, Sean. But we all wish we could have that influence. We're just we're marginalized at the moment.
Well, that's
a
right.
bit in the minds of young people.
But the Lord is patient, and the Lord is good, and He has a plan.
Sean, thank you for that very encouraging call. It's wonderful to talk with you. And as you know, The Quest is one of my favorite Catholic radio stations. 888-318-7884 is our number here. Dr. Christopher Bloom is our guest. The new book series for high school seniors, Why Believe? Answers to Life's Questions. You can get it. You can get it just by going to the Augustine Institute Press, right? Directly.
Market.formed.org.
Market.formed.org.
Yes.
Okay. Great. Let's. We got time for Bob. Let's go to Bob in Fulton, Missouri, listening on 103.3 FM, the Covenant Radio Network. Bob, your question for Dr. Christopher Bloom. Hi, Bob. The phone.
Are you looking for Jeff?
No, you know what? I'll take Jeff. All right. I'll take. I was looking for Bob. I don't mean to hurt you, Jeff, but
I'm all right. I'm very tough.
Are you in Columbus, Ohio, one of my top 10 Ohio cities?
I am in Columbus, Ohio.
Listening on St. Gabriel Radio. All right, Jeff, your question. Sorry, Bob, but we're going with Jeff now. Jeff, your question for Chris Bloom.
Hi. Well, I'm a volunteer leader of RCIA in my parish, and I do it just because I love it. But I'm trying to look at how can I broaden what I'm trying to help these people learn about our faith, and I'm looking for ideas that might help in terms of activities outside of a classroom, be they service or experiential or retreat. I've thought about trying to have them maybe interact with kids, but then I have to have all the background checks and everything like that, and I don't have that for all the participants. So I'm kind of looking for ideas to how to broaden and give more of an experience of our faith beyond just what we talk about in the classroom setting.
Well, that's a great question. Right now, it seems to me that for the typical person in adult, let's say young adult years coming into the faith, RCIA, there's the occasional convert who's 45 and older, but typically RCIA is a younger set and is often associated with a marriage, right? So, these are people who've been fully habituated to smartphones and to a digital media environment, and it's kind of an all-encompassing sensory and mental phenomenon for them. And so what you might think about doing is to bringing them into some of the sensory and cognitive gifts that our Catholic faith offers to the world that you can't get on a smartphone, right? So finding a monastery somewhere within a small drive, going there for half a day, hearing sung Vespers, spending some time in silence, appreciating what the monks or the nuns do. This could be a life-changing experience. We've got just outside of Denver, St. Walburga's Abbey, where they raise holy cows. It's a very beautiful monastery, and just to hear them sing,
Right. Oh, yeah.
This just opens doors.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. We've got that up the street from us here at St. Michael's Abbey.
Yes.
I go to Mass sometimes with the Benedictines up at Prince of Peace Abbey as well. But the Norbertines are singers.
Yes.
So, and it's beautiful. But you're right. The opening of the senses to the faith is really important at a certain age.
Well, at any age,
I guess so,
right?
yeah.
I mean, and I think the main point here is that it's a full body and soul experience here, right? And that's what our Catholic faith offers us through the sacraments, not just something that we're downloading, but something that we enter into that is a whole new reality for us. So tastes of that.
that help you, Jeff?
Yeah, there's some great ideas there for work with. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. After the break, we're going to go to Bob, and I'm going to see which one of you is a better caller. Since we had to make Bob wait, we'll see. I'll be judging. I'll be sitting in judgment. 888-318-7884, the number. Hey, if you live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and you have not heard about the Fullness of Truth Conference coming to Colleyville, how do I say it, Nick? Colleyville. He was trying to give me a Texas pronunciation. He's a Texan. He was trying to give me a Texas pronunciation, but I am not good at it. I can't. I have no. But if you look, what's the dates? May 10th and 11th. You'll still be home for Mother's Day. Get over to Colleyville, Texas. If you want to know about it, go to fullnessoftruth.org. What would you do for a day with Tim Staples? That's pretty good, right? A day with Tim Staples. Good. That's pretty good.
Very good.
That's not all. Chris Check is going to be there.
Oh.
And that's not all. This is like the Ginzu cutting knives. Carlo Broussard will be there as well.
Getting better all the time.
Yep. You want more?
Sure.
That is also not all. Trent Horn will be there.
My goodness.
One day with all those Catholic Answers figures at the Fullness of Truth Conference in Colleyville, Texas. Just go to fullnessoftruth.org. It's a week from now. You're going to want to be there. fullnessoftruth.org.
There's only one. Catholic Answers Live.
We need Catholic radio because we need the voice of the church in the public forum. We live in a time that the secular voice dominates so thoroughly that we need to get that Catholic perspective out. Just as Fulton Sheen used radio and TV in the last century, we need to continue to use this means to announce the Catholic faith in the public forum. Bishop Robert Barron thinks Catholic radio is important. So should you.
You've heard that St. Paul Street Evangelization supports hundreds of teams of evangelists sharing the good news. But did you know that some of these teams are public prayer stations? Set up a sign on the sidewalk and offer prayer and encouragement to those you encounter. Everyone needs prayer. Try this new method of witnessing to Jesus. Contact St. Paul Street Evangelization to get started at streetevangelization.com. That's streetevangelization.com.
The most common thing we hear from Catholic parents here at Catholic Answers, I may imagine it might be true for you all over at the Augustine Institute as well, is how do I keep them safe in the faith, or how do I help them return to the faith? I didn't know that they were even leaving and they're gone from the faith. Helping us to answer that important question in a practical way, giving us practical tools and helps in that direction is the Augustine Institute with their brand new books for high school seniors. Or for those older than high school seniors as well. And for some, if they're well prepared, younger than high school seniors, Why Believe? Answers to Life's Questions. Christopher Bloom, who put that series together as the academic dean of Augustine Institute, is here with us this hour. And we've got lots and lots of calls for you.
Great.
And I've kind of built up Bob in Fulton, Missouri, listening on 103.3 Covenant Network by making him wait. So
we'll see.
Bob, is this going to be a good call?
I sure hope so.
Okay, all right, Bob, we're counting on you. Yeah, your question, your question for Dr. Bloom.
Okay. Well, I also help teach confirmation.
God bless you.
In my parish.
Thank you.
And over the next 3 years, our bishop is going to transition the age of the confirmation candidates from a high school level to middle school level, from junior year to 7th grade. And it sounds like these books would be great supplements for the high school level teaching. I've heard arguments on both sides, which is would be more appropriate. But I was just curious on your opinion as far as confirmation age. I feel the high school kids, you can kind of challenge them more and take them to a deeper level. And I also kind of feel like, maybe it could give the appearance of we're kind of taking a backseat to the kids' sports schedules and extracurricular activities. I was just curious on your opinion.
Some help there.
Of confirmation.
No, there's a great sort of practical conundrum here, right? On the one hand, we want to start our reflection on this topic by recognizing that the sacrament of confirmation is a tremendous gift to us from God, right? This is a moment in which there's an outpouring of the Holy Spirit upon the soul. And we're strengthened in faith, hope, and charity, and receive the gifts of the Holy Spirit. So the perspective of many today in the church, and it sounds like your bishop is among those, is this can't happen too soon, right? This needs to happen younger in life because we need those sacramental graces. And then I think also another part of that, the perspective that would lead for confirmation to be moved to a younger grade would be to say, when we do confirmation when they're 15 or something like this, this is precisely when they feel it as an extra burden, and instead of being able to receive it as a gift, their very age kind of militates against that, right? Now, the flip side of it is, as you suggest, Bob, is that when they're 7 years old or 12 years old or something, they're just not ready for the real serious catechesis that we'd like to give them. Well, that's on us, right? We now need, as we move the sacrament of confirmation back to a younger age, we need to now come up with better ways of engaging our teens. Small group discipleship or whatever it might be.
Bob, that was a good call, as a matter of fact. And I feel like we owe such a great debt of gratitude to anybody who's working in catechetics right now. And God bless you in your work. Bob, did that help you?
Thank you. Yes, it did.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Saving souls in Missouri. It makes an eternal difference there, Bob. Let's go to Allison in Yucca Valley, California, listening on the Catholic Answers Live app. Allison, thanks for downloading the app onto your phone. Your question for Dr. Christopher Bloom.
Howdy, how are y'all?
Very well, Allison.
Thanks, well.
Awesome. I'm calling. I'm a fairly new convert, and I have a friend who, she was baptized as a Catholic and was introduced a little bit to the faith, and like her mom celebrates Marian solemnities. But other than that, she was given really no catechesis. And so how do I approach without like fire hosing her with like information so that I can maybe help be a tool to her evangelization?
This is great. I'm reminded of a crucial moment in Edith Stein's conversion. She became Sister Teresa Benedicta of the Cross and was martyred by the Nazis in World War II. But first, she had been a Jewish philosopher, and as a young woman was a teacher. And what made one of the steps in her conversion was that she was at a friend's house, and the house guest out of town kind of thing, and her friends hosting her had to go out to a dinner party. So she was left at home in the library and picked off the shelf the autobiography of Teresa of Avila, and she couldn't put it down. It just spoke to her, and by the time 3 hours went by, she said, "This woman's life is the life I need to lead. This woman's faith needs to be my faith." And I think that not that Teresa of Avila is the answer for everybody, but I think that there are books like that out there, whether it's Story of a Soul by Thérèse of Lisieux, or one, depending on, in this case, you're talking about a relatively young woman, it sounds like, so either one of those might be appropriate. If it's a young man, it might be Augustine's Confessions, although women, of course, profit from that too. So, but I think also, too, of John Paul II's memoirs. So when we have these precious documents of the saints speaking in their own voice to us, that can sort of get under the skin, as it were, because what one is encountering there is the human being, male or female, responding to the love of God in Christ Jesus without bringing in all the doctrine or anything like this, right? But just responding to the love of the Lord. And that's where it starts, right? The doctrine, it helps us to live out our love of Christ, right? If you love me, keep my commandments. Okay, so we want to do that, so tell us the commandments. How do we live them, and so on and so forth. But it starts with our response in faith, hope, and love.
Are there any good biographies that you're aware of Edith Stein herself? Is there anything out there that?
Yeah, the Waltraud Herbstritt is that's an unpronounceable German name, but that's a good biography. Yeah, Ignatius Press.
I didn't even know that was a name.
Yeah,
I was like the what one?
Ignatius Press has one.
Oh, yeah. Ignatius Press has a good. Well, yeah. Oh, yeah, maybe just peruse the website of Ignatius Press. What do you think about that, Allison? Sharing the lives of the saints in one way or another.
I think that's really great. I've introduced her to the idea of the saints, and like why we pray to saints. So I think that would be a really great idea.
Well, we're also going to send you your own copy of the 2-volume set, Why Believe, Answers to Life's Questions. Maybe leave it on the coffee table. I never know. Somebody might pick it up.
You never know.
And
and we profile some really wonderful saints in the back end of Volume 2, Walter Chisek, Cardinal Fantuan, and some other contemporaries. And again, their journey can speak so eloquently.
Allison, God bless you, sharing the good news. I hope that you will find just the right book to put in your friend's hands. But she's got a good friend. That's a good start. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, you're all about friendship, aren't you?
Yes.
Christopher Bloom. You wrote the book on friendship.
Did I?
Yeah.
No, that's John Cuddeback who wrote the book on friendship.
No, didn't you write one on friendship too?
Or no, A Mind at Peace. That was the book on restraint with respect to media devices.
I would not confuse you with John Cuddeback.
No, he's more eloquent than I
am. He's got a great little podcast that comes out once a week.
Yeah.
I get that. Do you get that?
Bacon from Acorns.
Bacon from Acorns, yeah. I swear that you had one on friendship. I wasn't actually confusing with you with John Cuddeback, but you didn't write something on friendship, no?
Not that I recall.
All right. You know what? I think I see it in your future. This could be a prophecy. I hate that when I mess up like that. Nancy, also in Missouri. All right, we're having a good day in Missouri. Nancy, your question for Dr. Christopher Bloom, who did not write any of John Cuddeback's books.
Thank you. I am a fallen away Catholic for about 20 years when I was married and we were raising our child. And then have since come back to the church. Okay. And I look at it differently today than I did, needs to say, when I was in high school and college. My question is, other than the Baltimore Catechism, that's for elementary school, I'm looking for something that is more for adults, not only for myself, but also for nieces and nephews who grew up in the church, parochial schools, out of college, and they don't believe, they don't practice, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So that's my first question. My second question is, when I was a practicing Protestant, very good at it, I got a Bible, Life Application Bible, and the New International Version. I need something like this in the Catholic version per my older brother. So I got 2 questions there.
There you go.
You got this one?
No. I just have 2 suggestions for the Bible thing. But probably the same ones that you.
No, hit the Bible. Yeah.
The Ignatius Study Bible.
Yes.
And then what's the one Jeff Cavins did for
Great Adventure?
The Great. Dang! Just give me a second. It was gonna come to me. That was like showing off. The Great. The Great Adventure Bible. Yeah, either one of those, you can't go wrong with.
That's
them.
right.
The Ignatius Study Bible or the Great Adventure Study Bible. You're going to be happy with those. But the first question was...
Yeah, the first question is I do think Why Believe is a wonderful resource there. Again, there's a certain person older than 30 who might think that all the photographs of young people make the book not for them. But that's, we had to choose an audience and stick with it, and so we chose 18, and that's our job. But I assure you the text can speak to a broader range of ages there. And the Baltimore Catechism is, in fact, the reverse of Why Believe. Because our task here in Why Believe is to make the reader, to invite the reader to take the questions seriously. That's where it has to start. It has to start with our taking the question seriously, and then the answers find their way in to the heart.
Nancy, I'm going to leave it there. I hope that was helpful to you. I think we can get to Lee in Portland, Oregon, if we go real quick. It's going to have to be super quick, Lee. Your question for Dr. Christopher Bloom. Lee?
Traders of Catholic schools are not formed correctly, but the Catholic school itself is out of reach for most Catholics, especially for those who are practicing the faith and not contracepting.
Got it. Okay, Catholic school is expensive. What's the answer there?
What's the answer
he's
there?
right.
Yeah, he's absolutely right. Yeah, we're going to have to just approach this very creatively.
How about a revival of the religious life?
That would
we
be
need
fine.
More women religious and men religious and priests and
that would
because that's what made it affordable before.
That is what
was
made
that
it
people
affordable.
dedicated their lives to doing this,
Mhm.
and most of those women are now in heaven.
Amen.
And they can pray for us. Lee, thanks for ending on that because we do need less expensive Catholic schools. It's a matter of basic justice in helping parents out in that way. Hey, we've been talking about Why Believe, Answers to Life's Questions. It's 2 books. It's got a teacher's guide, and it's got all kinds of videos in support of it at formed.org. Christopher Bloom has been our guest. Thank you very much, Dr.
Thank
Bloom.
you, Si.
It's always a great pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
Even
Real
though you're
joy.
not John Cuddeback.
No, I'm not.
Tomorrow, 2 hours of open forum. If you got a question about the Catholic faith, Mark Brumley, Jimmy Aiken, they'll both be here to answer those questions. We'll see you then, God willing, on Catholic Answers Live.